Welcome to the Chiro Business Mojo Podcast, where we deconstruct the methods, marketing, and mindset of successful business people and chiropractors from around the world. And now your host, Dr. Richard Day.
Yes, I am Dr. Richard Day, and this is the Chiro Business Mojo Podcast. Thanks again for hanging out with me. I am on fire today because I have got a really special guest. His name is Mr. Bharon Hoag. He has been a leader in the business aspect of healthcare for almost 2 decades. He's worked in the chiropractic profession for 18 years and taught for 16, developing his unique non-doctor approach through ownership and management of numerous clinics. He's also served as the executive director of the Ohio State Chiropractic Association for 6 years. The guy's not a chiropractor, but for 6 years, he was the executive director of a state association. This experience enabled him to facilitate a new model of state association management. In his first year there, he saw a 26% increase in membership, and he developed a hands-on approach to member benefits. He also worked with the members in their offices and helped them develop long-term changes and success. At the conclusion of his time there with the association, he saw a significant increase in membership and revenue. He's currently a founding partner of onechiropractic.org. Welcome, Mr. Bharon Hoag. I invite you to jump in and fill in any gaps I might have missed in that bio.
Yeah, no, that pretty much, sums it up. I think the most important thing for people to understand is that I'm not a chiropractor. I'm actually a business guy. My background is in psychology and communications, and I literally just fell head over heels in love with chiropractic because of a patient. I don't have a chiropractic story. I wasn't, injured, and they brought me back to life. I didn't have anyone in my family that had ever gone to a chiropractor. It really was just, I was blown away with what I was seeing before my eyes, and then I became extremely irritated that I didn't know it existed. I was pretty good at football, and in my mind, I felt like, man, maybe my career could have been extended had I been to a chiropractor. Maybe I wouldn't have had the injuries I had, and maybe it wouldn't have stunted my ability to perform, and just got very frustrated and irritated. So as a non-chiropractor, I just fell head over heels in love with something that at the time seemed so simple to me, had such unbelievable effects to people. And that's kind of what sent me on my journey. And almost 20 years now that I've been serving in the chiropractic profession and loving it as much today as I did back in 1997. So it's been a fun journey.
Well, I recently had the privilege of hearing you speak at Cleveland Chiropractic to the students, and I thought your message was so on point, and it hit so many things that people need to hear. But I like you, am kind of mystified by why so few percentage of the population utilizes chiropractic. Why do you think that is?
It's a unique story, and this is obviously from my perspective, but I've had the honor of being in just about every circle there is to be in our profession, every national association, every consulting group. I've kind of been that nomad that's been flying around for 20 years just trying to meet a need wherever I see it. And observing, and I'm a history buff, so I spent a lot of time, studying the history of chiropractic, and even Dr. Carl Cleveland, spending time with him and learning the things that he saw growing up, and Mike Flynn, Dr. Flynn from Louisiana, and the history from his perspective. And I really think it comes down to this, that chiropractic was so misunderstood in a world that was looking for a simple solution. I parallel it a lot to, Christianity, and that some people just have a hard time believing in God because they can't see, touch, and feel it. There's no tangible thing that someone can put in front of you to say that God does exist and he loves you. And I think the very same with chiropractic. We're so contrary to what medicine says. Medicine says we've got to poke you, prod you, radiate you in order to be able to say what's wrong with you, and then we've got to give you some substance, some tangible thing that makes you feel better. And because chiropractic came on the scene saying something completely different, that the body has the ability to heal itself, that all we're doing is removing nerve interference, it didn't fit. And then because of that regression or that targeted attack, if you will, that happened with medicine towards chiropractic, it flustered chiropractic itself. I teach a lot of times that, our forefathers went to prison to do what we take for granted today. I don't know of any chiropractor today whose kids are being ostracized in their schools because their parents are chiropractors. And that's the stuff that used to happen. But after that day, At that point, all we did was tell the story of chiropractic. We were just going to pound the pavement, stand our ground, and tell the story. Well, once we stopped telling the story, we started worrying about getting reimbursed. And that happened in the mid-'80s, where managed care came in the early 90s. And the whole thing shifted in our profession. If you talk to people in the 80s, they were slammed busy. People were sending their friends. They were coming in. It was insane, the amount of patients we were seeing at that time in history. But as soon as managed care came in, we started focusing on getting reimbursed. We were no longer focusing on telling the story of chiropractic. And because we were focused on getting reimbursed, we stopped being comrades. We stopped being colleagues, and we became competitors. And literally from that time on, you can almost historically see all of our efforts have almost been circling the wagons and shooting inward. We've turned into the Hatfields and the McCoys, and we're just arguing over dumb stuff. We're arguing over words that nobody can really define. And all of our energy, rather than doing what our forefathers did by just telling the story every which way they could, we turned into this group of people that were fighting over an identity that no one really knew what it was. And therefore, in the meantime, science and medicine started advancing, and the population started defining health a certain way. And here we are spending all of our time and energy internally, and we missed that opportunity to be a part of that conversation. And that's kind of why I'm so excited right now for chiropractors. I really believe there's never been a better time to be a chiropractor than right now, because the lie that medicine told for so many years is blowing up in their face right now. All of the data is showing that the current way that we've treated people is creating the new epidemics. We see that in the flu vaccines. We see that in all of the pills that were encouraged to be taken are now creating all kinds of comorbidities that are driving the cost of healthcare. All kinds of gastrointestinal issues and the data coming out on statin drugs for blood pressure and cholesterol. And all these things that medicine taught is blowing up. And that's not even bringing up opiates and the issues that we're having there. So I just think that what happened in our profession is we got so consumed with ourselves that we stopped going out into the communities telling people this is who we are and what we do. And it doesn't matter what we get paid. It matters how many people connect with us. And we create that value, and that value is going to drive the actual compensation that we've been seeking.
Well, wouldn't it be great if we could present ourselves to the public as One Chiropractic? And that brings us to our next topic. Why don't you tell us about onechiropractic.org?
Yeah, so One Chiropractic came about, as you heard in my bio and a little bit about me, I've served in many capacities in the profession, everything from a consultant to running a state association. And during my 6 years with the Ohio State Chiropractic Association, I really spent time getting involved on the national scene, really understanding what it is that the national groups are doing. And from the street level, docs say all the time, I pay my dues, but I don't know what's happening. Nothing's really changing. We're still seeing the same percentage of the population. We're still doing all of these things, and nothing's changing at all. And so they get frustrated, which proves in the low percentage of chiropractors that are actually a member of a national organization. I mean, it's less than 10%. And that's pretty sad that we have a profession that 80 to 90% of our profession is just not inspired at all by what's happening on the national level. So I was raised to get involved. You don't whine and complain and be in the gossip mill. You roll your sleeves up, your pant legs up, and you get a little dirty and figure out what's going on. So that's what I was doing for the last 6 years, is understanding what the association world was really about. How does it function? Why does it seem like it just moves at the pace of frozen syrup? And figure out, is there a way to fix it? And as I got into it and understood it both from a national level and a state level, I realized there's a lot of work being done. I equate it to something like Men in Black, that, the general population has no clue how many times the world has been saved because they're kept ignorant of what's going on. And I feel that's the way that it happens in an association world. There are things that are happening that the membership never knows about, because if they did, they'd freak out. And we're saving the day with different laws and meetings and conversations. And although it may not look like we're advancing, we spend so much time defending to make sure that we maintain the level that we have now that, it just doesn't look like anything's happening. So as I did that, I realized that these organizations are structured in a way that it's almost going to be impossible for them to advance. Because one, they don't have the membership, they don't have the financial support, they don't even have the infrastructure, because the pace at which they're able to get things done, they've got to go through all their directors and make sure they have an opinion there. They got to make sure it's congruent with their bylaws. They've got to make sure they have the funding. They've got to make sure they're not irritating a certain segment of their membership. And all of that stuff, although it's appropriate in that world, it stalls everything that happens. And so it's not their fault. I don't blame any of these organizations for why chiropractic has not advanced to the level that we all feel it should. So as I learned all of that information, I said, we have got to develop something that removes the handcuffs to take action when opportunities present themselves. And this is one of the things that we're encouraging those that are partnering with One Chiropractic. Take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves every day. You don't need someone else to move. You need to move. So we created One Chiropractic because we believe if we start funneling and moving together in one direction, we have all the money, we have all the knowledge, we have all the ideas that we need to gain our rightful place in healthcare. But we never do that because we're so scattered, and we have people that are either trying to monetize the idea or people that are trying to take credit for an idea. And both of those, because the core purpose is not on just getting things done, it kills it. It just stalls. So we are a group of people that have said, you know what? We love everybody in our profession. We do have one non-negotiable, and our non-negotiable is that there is no drugs in chiropractic. We will not spend a minute or a penny on anything that changes the scope of chiropractic to include drugs or surgeries. But outside of that, dude, everybody's in. We're not going to sit here and dictate this is what chiropractic should be. We want to say, let's come together. We all agree there are people dying every day. In Ohio, we have 29 people a week dying on opiates and heroin. And I believe with every ounce that I am, and that's a lot of ounces for those of you that don't know me, that, if we would have gotten to those people early on in the pain cycle, we could have dramatically impacted that statistic. I know that's a fact. But yet we're so busy doing all of these other political things that need to be done, but we don't have anybody or a group of people that are just saying, you know what, you guys keep doing what you're doing, you're killing it. We're going to go after all these people that are laying on their sofas whining and complaining about the profession, and we're going to get them inspired. We're going to give them tools and resources and things that get them off the couch into the community telling the story of chiropractic. Next to the gospel, there's not a better story that exists. I mean, literally, the story of chiropractic has no negative side effects. We are doing nothing but restoring. We don't do anything that deteriorates or destroys. We restore. And why wouldn't we want to tell that story? So One Chiropractic is designed to say, you know what? We support and encourage groups like the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, the ACA, the ICA. We are in love with state associations and COXA. We want to create a movement that brings more people into the system that says we want things done, but we're not encumbered by the political and the financial and all those other restrictions that these organizations have. So our goal is to be focused and driven to accomplish specific things that move the needle for the practicing chiropractor. Our vision for One Chiropractic is simply that we want the healthcare consumer to choose chiropractic as their primary healthcare choice. That's our vision. That's our end goal, is that the healthcare consumer will choose chiropractic as their primary healthcare choice. And when that happens, I think everything else that we kind of argue about goes away. Our secondary goal is that we want to make chiropractors in love with being chiropractors again. In today's world, most chiropractors don't want their children to be chiropractors because they want a better life for them. That just floors me. I'm stoked to say that my 19-year-old daughter is on a path to become a chiropractor, and I cannot think of a better thing in the world for her to do than that. But that is not the global sentiment of our profession. We feel distraught. We feel prejudiced. We feel beaten down, and we want to say, people, look at what you do every day. Look at the healing that happens. It's so normal we forget about the magnitude of the impact we have on a patient. I don't care if you see 2 people a day or 100 people a day. You are changing the world with what you're doing. Get excited about it again. So if we can get chiropractors excited to tell the story, just like our guys did back in the 60s and 70s when they fought hard and went to jail, all they did was tell everybody they met what they did, and it changed an entire culture at that time. Well, we got away from that. And One Chiropractic wants to bring that back, and we want to partner with everybody. We want to bring everybody to the table so we are one profession. One of our taglines is one profession, one purpose, one vision, One Chiropractic. And that's what we're building.
Well, that sounds like a phenomenal organization. You know, I've recently been talking to some people who practice in Kentucky, and they tell me that there are 3 competing state associations in that state. And I think, yeah, how can we get anything done when they're bickering back and forth, really fighting for their share of whatever is, you know, the revenue or whatever it is in that state, their perspective. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I really like what you are presenting, and I hope that it resonates with chiropractors and associations alike, because really we have to be able to advance and move out of whatever mindset we've developed.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. And I work a lot with the Kentucky Chiropractic Association and their people, because that's just a passion of mine. Going through what I went through in Ohio and reviving and restoring and creating a new vision for the state of Ohio, I've been through those trenches of what it's like when nobody knows what's going on. The really sad thing that's happening in Kentucky and a number of other states like Colorado and other states that have multiple associations, literally it is the Hatfields and the McCoys. It's generations later, and no one even knows what they're fighting about anymore. I mean, literally, when you pin them down and say, what is it that you want? Both of them are like, well, yeah, we want that. It comes down to either identity or finances. You know, it's either monetizing it or taking credit for it. It comes down to the human instinct of being like my way. And those are the things that have stalled our profession. Whatever happened to the idea that I was put on this earth to love and serve others? My job is to make you more successful than me. Because my success only comes when you are more successful. Because it's a copacetic relationship. We then are driven for a similar vision. And that's what we've got to start creating. And that eliminates this idea that I disagree on this one thing, so we need to separate. Why can't we just agree to disagree and then focus on the 90% of the stuff we agree on and actually move the needle? So, yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. It's just time. And, you know, I feel our profession needs leadership. I feel our profession needs bold. I'm the kind of individual that I'd like to think is humble, but I do border on that arrogant, confident borderline there. But I just, I know that I'm put on this earth to love and serve. And sometimes that means I'm willing to say the things that no one else is willing to say. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. As long as my motivation is driven from a biblical and a service perspective, I'm going to tell people what they need to hear. And right now, our profession needs to hear, grow up. Grow up. This isn't about you. It's about your ability to impact the people around you. And when that becomes your motivation, watch what God does. Watch how he opens up opportunities that just blow you out of the water, and everything you thought was impossible becomes possible because it's no longer about you. And that's the message that needs to get out there. And that's how we'll become one profession and we can achieve our goals.
One of my observations about chiropractors is that we need to get better at communicating our message. And you're involved with a program called Talk the Tick. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this is such an exciting program. And it wasn't anything that I created or One Chiropractic really had a part of. But, one of the things that is my skill set is I can take an idea and I can build it into a sustainable model. So many people have great ideas, but they can't just take that idea and turn it into something that actually moves. And so Talk the Tick has been around for 3 or 4 years, and they've had mild success on getting on 2 or 3 campuses. But when I learned about it, I fell in love with it. I just thought, what a perfect idea. So this is the issue. We are graduating chiropractors that don't have a passion for what they do, don't really adjust very well because there's no confidence in what they're doing. And they sure as heck don't know how to talk about it. And so my vision, just like pediatric chiropractic, is imagine if we can take an entire generation and we focus on it like children. Let's just say we take a concerted effort that we are going to make sure that everyone under the age of 8 is adjusted everywhere across this world. Do you know what happens in 20, 30 years? You have an entire world that knows nothing other than going to a chiropractor because that's what I've been doing since I was a child. I mean, we literally can eradicate the prejudice of our day by focusing on the youth and getting them to understand chiropractic so they don't know any different. It's normal after the football game on Friday to go to the chiropractor on Monday. It's just what we do. It's normal to have a chiropractor in our locker room. These are things that didn't happen over the last 30 years, and so we're dealing with those prejudice now because of the lies that we're told. So Talk the Tick is very similar in that manner. What if we could get to the future generations of chiropractors before they get into the field and mentor them on how to communicate the message of chiropractic? So it's a competition. It's an American Idol style competition where each school will have a local competition with their students where they have to give a 5-minute or less presentation on chiropractic. But it's not just a presentation. You can't give me the history of chiropractic. The presentation has to be driven in the way that the listener is now motivated to do something. So your talk has to be either come into my office, go tell others, did you know? So it's got to be driven to cause action to the listener. And so these students are competing, and the winner of the school will then go to a national competition, and we'll have, school against school with their champion, who will be the Talk the Tick winner of the year, and we'll do it annually. There is a pretty good cash prize for those that win the national competition. Those that win their local, their schools are sponsoring them for an all-expense paid trip to wherever the national event is. The other great thing that's happening with this is the person that wins the national competition, we've connected with people like Parker Experience in Florida, the FCA national event, and they're going to allow these winners to actually have stage time at one of these huge national events where we can also inspire our current docs to hear what the future generation is saying about our profession. But the big vision is, imagine if we have hundreds of students in all these campuses where we have practicing doctors that are mentoring them, teaching them how to communicate. What's the right way to develop an elevator pitch so that when you have 2 minutes with someone, you can still communicate in a manner that causes them to want more. And so it's not just, hey, you're on your own, do a presentation, and whoever naturally has a gift to talk wins. This is actually, we're connecting practicing chiropractors with their alma maters, guys that have really developed a great ability to communicate. People like Brad Glowacki, people like Bill Esteb, Jason Deitch, James Chestnut. These are people that are willing to come in and say, yeah, man, we'd love to just serve and give of our talents to these kids so that when they graduate, they're ready to rock and roll. And how awesome would it be for a field doctor to be able to know that they're hiring an associate that was a part of the Talk the Tick program and they've already been trained in how to communicate chiropractic? I mean, it literally just creates an amazing ripple effect to make sure that we're communicating who we are and what we do the appropriate way. So it's just been an awesome program. It's fairly new for One Chiropractic to kind of take this under our wing and drive it. We're super excited about next year as we're developing more in-depth programs and more resources for the students. But so far the excitement and the involvement on the campuses has been pretty cool. But we're just hoping that docs will get re-engaged with their alma mater and start pouring into these future chiropractors so that we can make sure that our profession continues to grow with the future people out practicing.
Well, Bharon, let's say that you have a time machine, you get in that machine and you set it for 10 years from today. What does chiropractic look like 10 years from today?
Yeah, well, I've been accused of pooping rainbows, so I want to be clear that I'm a huge optimist. The glass is completely full, even if there's only a drop in it in my world. So put that in context with what I'm going to say. Okay. But 10 years from now, we have a unification that's happened with our state associations where we're sharing information and we're working. Each of our states have over 50% of membership, which means that they're unified in their state, which gives them financial resources, but also gives them momentum and an army to start working. 10 years from now, I see chiropractors are now on the maternity wards of hospitals, making sure that children are being treated right after birth to ensure that the neurological development is happening appropriately, rather than being under constant duress from the moment of birth. 10 years from now, I see that we have individual chiropractors that are involved in their communities. They're in local health departments. We're having free clinics that we're operating in the states that we're helping those underprivileged people understand chiropractic is more vital than a vaccination, that they need to have that neurological impact in order to be able to have anything else they're doing in their health be as effective as it should be. Our schools are absolutely flooded with students because they want to be a part of a profession that is making such a dynamic impact. I see a world that has a dramatic reduction in the opiate deaths because chiropractic is now more appropriately used in the pain cycle. And we're coming at the early sign of it. And at the end of the day, I see chiropractors that are living their brightest future. They're honored to be able to serve their communities. Yes, they're successful both from the world's perspective of visits and money, but in the inner peace, they're balanced in their life where they have great families and they have a great clinic. And we have a bunch of people just going out there serving through the wonderful profession of chiropractic. And I believe that can happen in 10 years. It's amazing when you get a large group of people moving in one direction, what can get done in a very short period of time. And in these next 10 years, we either seize this opportunity or we lose it because healthcare is bankrupt. Healthcare is defunct. They have zero answers for the current crisis of healthcare. And when we get understood by that machine of healthcare, dude, we grow in a hurry. So that's what I see in 10 years if we take the opportunities that we have before us.
Well, onechiropractic.org and Talk the Tick sound like two incredible programs that are going to advance this profession. What I'd like to do now is take it down to the smaller level, to the solo practitioner level, for the guy who's out there and has been in practice for a while and is maybe stuck, or even the new graduate who's just starting out and is trying to get going. What are some of the things you recommend chiropractors do to really grow their practice? I know with OSCA, you grew that membership quite a bit. What recommendations do you have?
You know, at the end of the day, people need to be inspired. And our profession doesn't do a very good job of that. We fling around negativity like it's oxygen. I mean, look at our chiropractic magazines. It's all about compliance. It's all about reimbursement. It's all about audits. It's all about fear, fear, fear. And that comes naturally because human beings are typically, that's what they focus on. We're always worst case scenario. And, you know, what I was able to do with the OSCA, I mean, we grew our membership from just under 320 to over 1,100 members in 3 years. So we had, you know, pretty substantial growth. But it came by me going out there and painting a vision of hope, but being a leader, making strong statements and strong promises and then delivering on them. And it got people to believe, holy cow, you know, this is something worth fighting for. I forgot about how beautiful this is. You know, and it's funny with the partners, those that contribute with One Chiropractic and participate in the things that we're doing. Every Monday, I send them about a 5 to 7 minute video of me just telling them what's on my heart and the things that we're doing, both with One Chiropractic and also just in the profession as a whole. And then I challenge them every week. This is your challenge this week that I want you to focus on that moves the needle. And, you know, it's funny. I just released one this morning to our partners, and it was 100% about falling back in love with being a chiropractor. You will never talk about something you're not excited about. You just don't. But it's organic when you're excited about it. I mean, you go to a movie that was awesome. You can't help but talk about it. It's not like you think every time you see someone, remember, I've got to tell them how great the movie was. It just happens organically because you're excited about it. Or you had a wonderful meal. Or someone did something really nice for you. It's just organic. It comes out of you without you even expecting it. We have got to get back to that point where we absolutely love being chiropractors, doing what we get to do every day. We need to cling to that one or two things that happen in the day that just remind us this is why we do what we do. Instead, we focus on we didn't make enough money, we didn't see enough patients, who missed their appointments, what staff member isn't doing what they should be doing. You know, I challenge the people that I work with as well. When you have your staff meetings, which a lot of people don't, and you should, but when you have your staff meeting, what do you spend your time talking about? Are you educating your staff on chiropractic and the power of what you're doing and how that impact and why they need to be treated more frequently? I was teaching a seminar this weekend with about 30 people, helping them with care plans. And it was funny how many people said, I don't even really know why I would recommend someone being seen once a week. That just seems like overtreatment. And so we had to break it down to the scientific level and say, do you understand science has proven that scar tissue develops in about 7 days? That if we're treating them at least once a week, we're staying ahead of the development of the scar tissue and the inflammation and the swelling and all those things that are happening, and we keep the body moving forward rather than getting built upon. And it was funny watching these guys' eyes like, oh, that's the first time anyone's ever explained to me why I want to see someone so often. Because, see, we're doing everything based on reimbursement. The more I see them, the more money I make. I don't know why I'm asking them to come back 3 times a week, but that's just what everyone says we should do, so that's what I'm doing. See, we got to get back to owning why we're doing what we're doing, and whatever your belief system is. Now, I don't expect everyone to have every patient come once a week, but I do expect you to figure out what you believe, what you love, and then start telling that story. The average field chiropractor right now has no idea why they're showing up to work every day. They claim they're doing it because they love chiropractic, but if they did, they'd be producing a different result. What they are doing is they're doing a job. They're showing up and they're thinking about their documentation. They're thinking about the fact that they don't have enough money to pay payroll, and none of that is working for them. So my one comment to you right now, whoever's listening, and I believe God's going to have the right people listening at the right time. If you're listening to me right now, your number one thing is you get up in the morning and I want you to look in that mirror and I want you to say, I am beautifully and wonderfully made. Today is a day that I'm going to get to change the lives of at least one person. And I want you to covet that ability. Go to that office, be totally turned on with the idea that I am going to get to literally change, both physically, chemically, philosophically, however method that motivates you, but you are going to change someone's life today. and what an unbelievable ability that is. And when you get excited about that, then that person's going to tell someone else, or you're going to go somewhere and they're going to ask how you doing today. And you're going to be like, you know what? I'm freaking living the dream, man. Today I got to just rock the world of someone. And they're like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a chiropractor. You did what? Dude, every day, all I get to do is just to increase the human potential of the people that come into my office and watch what amazing things they get to do because they're no longer riddled in pain. Wow, I'm in pain every day. And it collides, man. It's just like a landslide of people saying, wow, I've never seen people enjoy what they do that much. So if you're that chiropractor that goes to work and doesn't know why, I want you to look in the mirror and first of all, love who you are, no matter what issues you may have, but love who you are. And then I want you to share that love with as many people as you can and get excited about what you do, because there's nothing better in this world to do than being a chiropractor.
Thanks for listening to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast at www.chirobusinessmojo.com.